Imagine waking up, right? You've just taken your final breath, but instead of, I don't know, the pearly gates or just absolute nothingness, you find yourself sitting in a room.
Yeah, and it's not like a cloudy, mystical room either.
No, not at all. It's perfectly, like, almost aggressively logical. It's
Hmm.
totally stripped of all accidents, all personality.
Right, it's essentially just geometry at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
four walls doing exactly what walls are supposed to do, a solid floor,
Mm,
a flat ceiling, no windows, just nothing more.
exactly. And sitting across from you in this really stark room is a middle-ranking civil servant in a crisp, dark suit, and on the table between the two of you is a chessboard.
Which is such a great setup.
It really is. And the
Mm.
civil servant, who, by the way, happens to be Death, is playing white, which, in chess means Death always gets to move first.
Right, it's an incredibly haunting image, and it just immediately sets the stakes. I mean, you aren't just dead. You are locked in a system of absolute rules.
Right. So, welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is to explore this brilliant piece of philosophical fiction from our source text, which is called Rules for the Endgame by Max and Claude.
Yeah, and we'll be diving into a scenario where the legendary 20th century philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein finds himself in exactly that room.
Playing a literal game of chess against death.
Right, and the premise here is deeply rooted in historical reality, actually, because Wittgenstein died on April 29, 1951.
And he had these famous last words, right?
Yeah, his last words to his doctor were, "Tell them I've had a wonderful life."
Which is just wow.
I know.
Okay.
And the text we're diving into takes those exact words and asks a really provocative question, like, what game was he playing when he said that? Was it just a simple statement of biological fact, or was it a tactical move? Okay, so let's unpack this, because we are going to use this literal chess match to decode some massively complex ideas today.
Oh, absolutely. We're looking at the hidden rules of language, the genuinely painful choices we make in human life, and what it actually means to win when the final outcome of the game, which is, your own death, is already completely guaranteed.
Right, the ultimate unwinnable game.
Exactly. So to figure out why death chose a chessboard for a philosopher, we have to start with Wittgenstein's lifelong obsession with rules.
Yeah, because chess is essentially the dream that philosophers always wanted ordinary, everyday language to be.
How so?
Well, it's a closed system of perfect precision. Like, in chess, a bishop moves diagonally, period.
Right.
There's no linguistic fuzziness.
Right.
A bishop doesn't move, more or less diagonally depending on its mood, or the cultural background of the player.
Or the context of the conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The rule is absolute. It's universal.
I can definitely see the appeal of that. It's like looking at the underlying code of a software program. A line of code just executes, it does exactly what it's programmed to do without any ambiguity or room for interpretation.
That's a great analogy. And when Death opens this game in the text with the move v4.
Which is advancing the king's pawn forward 2 squares, right?
Right, exactly. The text makes a huge philosophical point about that specific opening. Because that pawn isn't just a physical piece of ivory sliding across a piece of wood. The rule itself is what literally gives the movement its meaning.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is that Wittgenstein spent the early part of his career arguing that human language should work exactly like that opening move.
Like perfectly rule-bound.
Yes. He wanted language to have this crystalline, logical structure. I mean, the physical movement of the ivory pawn without the rule is just meaningless displacement,
It's
right?
just moving a toy.
Exactly. The rule magically transforms it into a chess move. But sitting there at the board, staring at that perfectly governed piece, the older Wittgenstein runs into a massive problem with his own early theory.
Well, let me jump in here, because here is the pushback on that perfect logical dream. Even with my software analogy, knowing how a piece moves doesn't actually tell you why you're playing the game.
Right.
The rulebook tells you the bishop moves diagonally, sure, but it absolutely cannot tell you when it's smart to sacrifice that bishop while you, the player, are bleeding out on the board and losing the match.
And that is the core limitation of pure logic. A
Oh,
rule cannot apply itself.
no, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, we naturally have this mental picture that a rule is like a set of steel train tracks laid down in advance in your mind.
Yeah.
And your thoughts just obediently roll along them.
Right, like it's all predetermined.
But the older Wittgenstein realized that a rule only makes sense in the practice, the community, and what he called the form of life of the people playing it.
Okay, I'm not sure I fully grasped that term, form of life. Like, give me an everyday example of what he means by that.
Sure. Think about the physical act of raising your hand.
Uh,
If you are sitting in a university lecture hall and you raise your hand, The rule is that you are asking to speak.
Makes sense.
But if you are at a fast-paced art auction and you raise your hand, you just bid $10,000.
Oh, right.
And if you are alone in your kitchen and you raise your hand, you might just be stretching or, I don't know, swatting a fly.
Okay, I see. The physical movement is identical in all three.
Exactly. The rule changes entirely based on the social environment, the shared human customs, the historical context. That messy shared context is the form of life.
Wow. So you literally cannot separate the action from the messy human reality it lives inside.
You really can't.
But how did Wittgenstein, who was famously obsessed with pure mathematical logic, actually figure this out? Because from what the text says, he certainly didn't start out believing that context mattered at all.
Oh, he absolutely didn't. His early masterpiece, a book called the Tractatus, tried to map all of human language as strict, logical pictures of facts.
Pictures of facts.
Yeah, he believed that if a sentence didn't paint a literal, verifiable picture of a fact in the physical world, like the cat is on the mat, it was essentially nonsense.
So no metaphors, no poetry.
None of that. He wanted to clean up language, strip away all the emotional and historical messiness, and leave only a perfect logical architecture.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, you guys. Because that entire perfect crystalline theory, the life's work of a certified genius, was completely dismantled by a train ride.
It's one of the greatest stories in philosophy.
It really is. He's riding on a train with this Italian economist named Pierre Sraffa, and they are arguing about this exact theory of language.
Right.
And Sraffa supposedly just looks at Wittgenstein and makes a classic Neapolitan gesture. Like he brushes the back of his fingers under his chin, which in Italy roughly means, I have contempt for this, or I don't give a damn.
Yeah, the classic chin flick.
Yeah.
And following that gesture, Sraffa asks the question that practically redirects the course of 20th century philosophy.
What does he ask?
He says, what is the logical form of that?
Hold on. You're telling me a certified genius abandoned his life's work, a theory he thought solved all of philosophy forever just because a guy flicked his chin on a train. That sounds completely absurd.
I mean, it sounds absurd until you look at the mechanics of why it destroyed his theory.
Okay, walk me through it.
Well, Sraffa's chin flick didn't picture a physical fact in the strict logical sense that Wittgenstein's book demanded. It wasn't a noun doing a verb.
Right, there's no cat on the mat there.
Exactly. By the rules of the Tractatus, that gesture should have been meaningless nonsense. Yet, it flawlessly and instantly communicated a highly specific meaning.
And Wittgenstein understood it perfectly.
He did. Sraffa was proving that if a completely illogical gesture can carry perfect meaning, then meaning doesn't come from a rigid logical structure at all.
Oh, I see. It's like an inside joke between friends or internet slang.
Yeah.
Like if you try to map out the logical structure of a meme, it falls apart and looks like utter nonsense. But to the community that uses it, it functions perfectly as a tool. It gets the job done.
That is spot on. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this realization birthed his later philosophy, the concept of language games.
Language games.
Yeah, that chin flick proved that language is permanently embedded in historical social reality. Meaning isn't a pure logical picture anymore. Meaning is use.
Meaning is use?
Right. Words are tools in the hands of human beings, used to do specific jobs within specific communities.
Which brings us to a really uncomfortable realization, honestly.
How so?
Well, if life isn't a perfect logical chess game, but rather this messy language game where we are just trying to use tools in a complex world,
What?
we're bound to get stuck.
Oh, definitely.
We're going to be forced to make moves we really, really don't want to make. And the text brilliantly uses a terrifying chess concept to mirror the tragedy of these human choices.
You're talking about the concept of Zugzwang.
Yes. Zugzwang. The compulsion to move. It's like being in a toxic job where staying destroys your mental health, but quitting immediately ruins you financially. You can't just hit pause on life and pass your turn. You have to make a choice. And every available choice causes damage.
Yeah, and in chess, Zugzwang is exactly that. It's a situation where any available move you make will mathematically worsen your position.
It's brutal.
It is. The rules of the game dictate that you must take a turn. You cannot pass. But because of the way the board is arranged, stepping in any direction damages your defense or loses a piece.
And the text connects this beautifully to Wittgenstein's own brutal personal life, like the zugzwang of his existence.
Yeah, his life was incredibly heavy.
He was born into one of the wealthiest industrial families in all of Europe, but his life was marked by immense, suffocating tragedy. 3 of his brothers, Hans, Rudy, and Kurt, all committed suicide.
And Wittgenstein himself constantly felt the gravitational pull of that same despair. I mean, he made moves throughout his life that seemed completely baffling to the outside world.
Like what?
Well, for example, he gave away his massive steel and iron inheritance to artists, including the poet Rainer Maria Rilke.
Just gave it all away.
Yeah. He did this because the form of life of a wealthy, comfortable heir was fundamentally uninhabitable for him. It felt toxic to his intellectual honesty.
Wow. And even in his personal relationships, the text points out that he admits he loved people badly.
Yeah, he treated his closest friends and his lovers as philosophical sparring partners.
Right, rather than human beings who just needed warmth and safety. He was constantly forced into these corners where the rules of his own intense nature compelled him to make moves that cost him and cost the people around him dearly.
It's really tragic.
So what does this all actually mean for us? If the rules of life force us into these painful corners where every choice hurts someone, is life just a series of blunders? Are we just failing at the game of existing?
Well, death actually addresses this directly across the chessboard in the story.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When Wittgenstein talks about the pain of these forced, damaging moves, death responds by saying, "I don't know what I am capable of losing."
Oh, wow. That is a chilling line.
It really is, and it completely reframes the situation. It raises an important question about our own agency, because death isn't a player in the game.
Right. Death is the opponent, but wait.
Actually, death is the boundary, the referee,
Yeah.
the physical limit of the board itself. We suffer the pain of zugzwang because we are players inside the game.
Oh, I see.
We are capable of losing things. The pain of those forced, tragic choices is actual proof that we are alive, vulnerable, and actively participating in the form of life.
We hurt because we have skin in the game, and death doesn't.
Exactly.
That takes the feeling of I'm just blundering through life and turns it into I'm playing a game that genuinely matters.
It's a huge shift in perspective.
And as this chess match between Wittgenstein and death deepens into the late middle game, the conversation inevitably turns toward the ultimate limit of that game.
God, the mystical, the boundary of existence itself.
Right, and apparently pop culture completely misunderstands how this works.
Oh, totally. The text brings up a famous cultural touchstone, Ingmar Bergman's 1957 film, The Seventh Seal.
Classic movie.
Yeah. In the film, a medieval knight plays chess with death to buy time so he can finally find proof of God's existence.
But Wittgenstein, sitting across from his own version of death, argues that Bergman's knight got it grammatically wrong.
He does.
Wait, why is seeking proof of God a grammatical error? That sounds like a typo, not a theological crisis.
Well, it's a grammatical error in the philosophical sense, what we call a category mistake.
Okay, unpack that.
The knight is treating God like an object in the world that can be found, measured, and verified. Like a misplaced set of keys or, a new planet.
Right.
But Wittgenstein argues that God, or the mystical, isn't a thing in the world. Trying to apply the language game of empirical science and proof to the realm of the mystical is using the wrong tool for the job.
It's like trying to measure the concept of a room while you're standing inside it.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
Like, you can take a tape measure and measure the drywall, the floorboards, the table, but you can't measure the idea of the room itself with that same tape measure. The tool only works on the stuff inside the space.
That is exactly it. And Wittgenstein actually experienced this boundary, this limit himself.
During the war, right.
Yeah, the text details his profound mystical experience serving in the trenches of World War I. While facing constant artillery fire, he wasn't looking for scientific proof of a divine being.
What was he looking for?
He just looked up at the night sky and was overwhelmed by the sheer, staggering fact that the world exists at all.
Yeah.
He wasn't amazed by how the world is arranged, but by the fact that it is.
So the mystical isn't a hidden fact to be discovered. It's the frame of reality itself.
Yes.
And death entirely agrees with him. Death admits it is merely the limit that gives the form its form. It's the edge of the chessboard.
Right, you can't ask the edge of the board what square it's standing on. It just defines where the game happens.
The rules of justification, the human need to demand proof for everything, they eventually stop at what Wittgenstein called the bedrock.
Right, as he famously wrote, "If I have exhausted the justifications, I have reached bedrock, and my spade is turned."
Meaning you can't dig any further?
Exactly. You hit the solid rock of existence, and you can no longer ask why. You just say, this is simply what we do.
Which provides a perfect yet haunting narrative bridge to what happens next in the room. because Wittgenstein hits his own personal bedrock here.
He does. He realizes they aren't entirely alone at the chessboard.
Yeah, there's an unseen presence lingering in the air. The ghost of David Pinsent.
And Pinson was his closest friend and likely the great love of his life. He died in an airplane crash in 1918.
He was the person Wittgenstein dedicated the Tractatus to, wasn't he?
He was.
But the ghost doesn't appear as some spooky Hollywood apparition. The text describes Pinsent's presence as a subtle modification of the room itself, like a sudden change in the air pressure.
It's very understated.
And this ghost represents the ultimate unresolved language game of Wittgenstein's life. He couldn't solve his grief with pure logic. The ghost lingers, silently, until Wittgenstein finally does something he struggled to do while he was alive.
Which is to apologize.
Yeah, he stops hiding behind philosophical armor.
He admits plainly that he grieved badly, that he was too trapped inside his own brilliant head to love simply. And only when he makes that honest, human use of language, the ghost finally departs.
It's a moment of profound emotional resolution. But, and this is key, the actual chess game on the table is far from resolved.
Right, the game is still going.
We reach move 47. The pieces are locked in a structure that has been building since that very first e4 pawn move, and we arrive at the climax of the deep dive. How does a game against death actually end?
Well, this revolves around a specific practical rule in chess called the 50-move rule.
Okay, what's the
If 50 consecutive moves are made by both players without a pawn moving or any piece being captured, the game is automatically declared a draw.
So nobody wins.
Right, it's designed to keep games from going on forever when neither player is making real progress.
And Wittgenstein, looking at the board, calculates deep into the variations. He finds a brilliant 6-move sequence that would inevitably trigger this rule and force a draw against death.
It is objectively the correct, safe, technically flawless chess move to make.
But he declines it. He refuses to take the draw.
Which is wild.
Instead, he chooses a suboptimal move, a move that makes his position technically weaker, but keeps the board unresolved.
And we really have to ask why. I mean, why would you decline a guaranteed draw against death?
I was completely baffled by this at first. Isn't a draw the best possible outcome against an unbeatable opponent?
You'd think so.
But then you realize what accepting the draw actually means. To take the draw is to say the game is over. It's an admission that there is nothing left to explore. And Wittgenstein has this incredible realization about what winning actually means.
Right, winning doesn't mean checkmating death. We all know that's mathematically impossible.
If you can't checkmate death, and accepting the draw just prematurely kills the game, then the traditional idea of winning is actually a trap.
Sorry, I mean, that's the whole point.
No, you're right. The aha moment here is that winning means continuing the investigation. Winning is playing with full honesty and full attention for as long as the game sustains it.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Wittgenstein is a man who, down to his very core, refuses to stop learning. He refuses to stop asking questions.
Yeah.
The refusal to be finished is the deepest move available on the board. Living isn't about reaching a final sealed conclusion where you dust off your hands and say, I solved the universe.
I won.
Right. It's about the ongoing practice of going on, even when the rules start to run out and the position gets messy.
He makes the suboptimal move just to keep the conversation going, and death, for the first time in the entire encounter, smiles. The game does not end. The investigation continues.
It completely redefines our relationship to the end of our own lives. It suggests that the value of our time isn't in finding the ultimate answer that beats the game, but in the quality of attention and honesty we bring to whatever the next move happens to be.
Which brings us all right back to you, listening to this right now. Think about the language games you're playing today.
The unwritten rules you navigate at work.
The complex games you play in your relationships. The narratives you're spinning inside your own head. Are you paralyzed by the fear of making a blunder? Or, even deeper, are you paralyzed by the fear of zugzwang?
Terrified to make a move at all because every option feels like it's going to cost you something.
Exactly.
It's a profound shift in perspective. Wittgenstein showed us that the limits of our language are the limits of our world. We're all playing on a bounded board.
But those boundaries aren't a cage.
No, they are the very things that make the game possible in the first place.
So here's a final thought to chew on as you go about your day. When you inevitably hit your own absolute limit, when you reach your personal bedrock and your spade is turned, are you going to demand a final, impossible answer from the universe? Or are you going to look across that stripped-down, perfectly logical room, smile at whatever is sitting across from you, and simply make the next move?